Welcome to Little Home Projects. In this video I make these homemade wooden toy blocks. To start this project, I'm first going to make little cubes out of this piece of 2x2 cedar. I did give it a bit of a sand, because I knew that once the pieces were cut, they were going to be difficult to work with. I set up a stop block on my chop saw and made sure that the spacing gave me an even cube. Cutting small pieces of wood on a chop saw like this can be dangerous, so make sure you let your blade come to complete stop before you try and lift it out. It's easy for small blocks of wood to get caught between the blade and the stop block, and if that happens it could launch the piece of wood out of the machine, so be careful. I've cut out 16 of these small cubes. With the remaining piece of 2x2, I'm going to cut a few longer lengths. One set that is going to be twice the length of a cube, and another set that's going to be 3 times the length. I used the cubes themselves to mark the exact marks so that I knew that everything would be symmetrical. I'm making double batches of all of my lengths because I'm making it for 2 different kids. The third length of 2x2 that I'm going to go with is not going to be 3 times as long as the cube. I've decided to make it the same width as a piece of 2x6 because I'm going to be using 2x6 lumber for other blocks, so this way these pieces will match that. I did want to call attention though to the color difference within this one piece of wood. This is one end of the wood versus the other end of the wood, and it's crazy how different it is. Also, one end of the wood is a little bit more beat up than the other, so I may not use this in the end. There's some large gouges and some chips, and if this doesn't sand down smooth enough, I may not use it. But kids may not notice, and might as well put it to use if it does work. These are the cuts I used for the 2x6. I made a couple 6-inch pieces, one 12-inch piece. Some of the 6-inch pieces I cut into half to make some triangles, and I made sure to make duplicates of everything to complete 2 different sets. I'm going to do some similar cuts with the 2x4. Something to keep in mind when working with construction grade lumber is that a 2x4 isn't actually 2 inches by 4 inches, it's 3.5 by 1.5 inches. So keep that in mind when you're trying to make square bits. The numbers will have to be marked differently. After cutting that first piece, I used it to draw the mark for my second one so that I'll be the same. Also gave me the chance to make sure that it was going to be a perfect square. I found that it was close enough, not perfect, but close enough. During this step I noticed that my pieces of wood weren't flat on the top and bottom. If you have a jointer or a planer you could fix this. I don't, so I'm just going to go with it as it is. I think that the uniqueness of the wood will actually work out nice in the end. After cutting several square pieces, I'm moving to an 8-inch length. What I want to do later on is take a hole saw and cut just a semicircle out of the bottom to give me an arch-shaped piece. To cut out the arch piece, I headed over to one of my neighbor's houses to use their drill press. We lined up the drill bit with the center of the base of the piece of 2x4. We clamped everything down nice and tight and just slowly drilled through it. This cut a nice semicircle in the bottom half of the 2x4. The piece of wood that was cut out worked well as an additional block to add to the set, so I kept it. After cutting 4 of those, I have enough left over in my 2x4 that I want to cut some odd shapes, things that won't line up with everything else. I'll start by cutting out a triangle shape. Using that triangle to draw a square line on my 2x4, I'm going to measure back the width of another 2x4, so 3.5 inches, and cut there. That gives me this particular shape here, which I think will add interest to the set overall, and won't merge well with anything else. With several of those cut, I have this little beat length of 2x4 left over, and it looks like it's going to be enough to get 3 or 4 little squares out of it, so I'll cut those up. The last piece that I want to cut is this piece of dowling. This is a piece of pine dowling. I couldn't find cedar dowel. I'm going to make it so that it's the same height as the width of a 2x6, which is 5.5 inches. I transferred that mark to the piece of dowling, cut it, and made sure that it was going to be the right height, and it worked out fine. So I'm just going to cut up the rest of the piece of dowel to that same length. With all of those cut, I compared them to each other to make sure they're all the same size. A couple were a little long, so I shaved them off. And with that, I'm ready to move on to the long task of sanding. This is my first time using a belt sander, or a table or a benchtop sander, so I am going to be doing this box, which is one full set, trying to clean up all the edges. So I think this is going to work out well. That's cleaned up the major tears. There's still some I'll have to spend some time on just smoothing out. Let's get that whole box stacked up there and done. It has been exactly 1 hour, and I was able to do the entire set. This is a very dirty job. There you go, 1 hour for one set. And I'm filthy. All right, I'm gonna put this away and do the next set. Okay, done the last batch of sanding. That is a big task. This would be an easy project if it wasn't for all the sanding. I have a feeling that finishing is gonna be also pretty annoying. It's cold, time to pack it up, clean up. Oh, my ears are ringing. I probably should have been wearing a mask. All right, let's get this packed up, and next time we will start treating them, staining them. In an effort to start keeping my videos a bit shorter, I'm going to be breaking this up into a couple pieces. Check out the next video, which is going to be me finishing up the projects with the final finish that I chose to use, and also I posted a video of me making the finish that I used, so check that out as well. This has been Little Home Projects. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos, hit subscribe. I'll see you soon.